Hi, everybody. All right, so we made it to Thursday. We have 2 more days of digital learning this week, and then we take next week off for an actual spring break. So let's start today with our SAT Quick Minute. Today we're taking a look at number 4. Number 4 is about choosing the right verb tense for the occasion. So we look at our verb. Has been is our verb, interrupted by the adverb never. So Anna has been to the zoo. Now we start this sentence with the phrase until yesterday. So yesterday indicates a time in the past. Has is a verb that indicates present tense. So we want to make sure that we have a past tense verb that is connected to yesterday. Anna has is present. Anna had is past tense. So when we look at this yesterday, we know that this has to be past tense. Until yesterday, Anna had never been to the zoo. Choose the correct verb tense for the time. Okay, one more sentence we're going to do today. I bought a crate of oranges, and delivered them to my grandmother's house. All right, so this is a comma splicing error. That means putting in commas where they're not needed. So remember yesterday or 2 days ago, we talked about Renata running with the boars and climbing the coconut trees. And we talked about this comma right here as being considered an Oxford comma in a list, that it's not necessary, but SAT wants you to include the Oxford comma. Well, if we look down here, a list only includes 2 or more things. In this case, we don't need the comma because we have 2 things here, but the and joins them together here. I bought a crate of oranges and delivered them to my grandmother's house. It's not a list, it's like a step, basically. Therefore, comma is not needed right there. Now, if we had 3 things that I did, I bought a crate of oranges, peeled and sliced them, and delivered them to my grandmother's house, then we would need commas. Bought a crate of oranges, comma, peeled and sliced them, comma, and delivered them to my grandmother's house. But when it's only 2 things, this comma is not necessary. Okay, so it's like this one up here with the commas, but in this case, there's only 2 things that are being linked, and therefore we don't need that comma. Okay, that's today's SAT Quick Minute. Now we're going to jump over to Khan Academy. You'll notice on the dashboard now that there are assignments for the whole week. Today is Thursday, so I want you to do conventions and sentence fragments as your assignment for today. Please do that. And again, go into the past assignments. If there's anything on the past assignments that you haven't done on your status, try to catch up with those. Hopefully by the end of this week, everything that has been assigned to you is completed in Khan Academy. Okay, that's it for SAT. Let's take a look at the major paper. So yesterday we talked about the resumes. Today I'm asking for you to submit your resume. So in order to do that, we're going to go into AP Lang, and you will notice that over here on the side, you have resume first draft, and it's due today by midnight. So you're going to click onto that resume for first draft, and over here, you should have a submit button. Okay, so remember, you're going to click the submit button. You're going to get a screen that pops up that shows you 3 different tabs. I believe the center tab is Create. You're going to click on Create. Then you're going to go over to your major paper, your resume, and you are going to click the Share button. You want to change anyone with the link can view to anyone with the link can edit, or else I can't give you suggestions on how to make it better. Then you want to copy the link, and you want to go back to this section here, click on Create, and Control V or Command V, whatever it is you have on your computer there, and put the link in there and then submit that so that I can see your resume and give you suggestions and comments about it. Okay, now we're going to create a new document. Do not add it to your resume, a brand new document, and you're going to create it as major paper 4, and this is recommendation letter request. So let's talk about the letter request. So you will be applying to colleges or a job or for scholarships, and you're going to need to ask people for letters of recommendation for you. So let me first talk to you about who to ask. So number 1, you want to ask a teacher. You're going to eventually need to ask your guidance counselor. And then you can ask someone who knows you, like an employer or something along those lines, who knows you in a different light. You want to think about people who know you in different ways. So you could ask a coach, you could ask a classroom teacher, you could ask a guidance counselor, you could ask your reverend if you're really connected to your church, your baseball coach, or whatever it might happen to be. But think about, like, who are people who see me in 3 different ways? As far as teachers are concerned, if you choose a teacher and you're planning on majoring in math and science, you probably want to ask a math and science teacher to be your recommender. If you're not sure what you're majoring in, you want to choose the teacher who you think knows you the best, writes a good letter, and will say good things about you, and ask that teacher. Okay, so the format for letters are basically 3 paragraphs. Number 1, paragraph 1 is where you explain why you chose that person, and you kind of butter them up by being complimentary and telling them why you chose them. Paragraph number 2 is where you go into what you need from them and specifically ask them what you want them to highlight about you in your letter. So the compliments and why you chose that person, that should change with each person that you're asking. And what should be highlighted should also change with each person that you're asking for the letter, because you want the letters to say different things. You don't want them to say all the same thing, okay? And then paragraph 3 is where you give your date and you give a final, like when you need it by, and your thank yous. Now, I suggest that you put a date that is 2 weeks before when you actually need it. So if your school is giving a deadline of November 1st for applications, you want to date it for, like, get this letter to me by mid-October, because you want to make sure you have the letter and you're not stressed about it or anything like that before time. It's a good idea for you to choose 3 different people. Now, for major paper 4, I am only requiring that you include 1 draft of the letter. But if you want to show me that you are asking who your 3 people are and you want to show me all 3 letters because you want my advice on how to fix them and make them better, you can absolutely 100% submit all 3 letters to me so that I can kind of look it over and give you advice on each of those. However, you're only required to do 1 for major paper 4. Okay, let's look at the sample of that major paper that I gave you. Okay, so after the resume, you'll see that there is major paper. So here is the request letter. Now, this is how it's set up. This section of the request letter right here, that's called an inside address. That is your name and your address that goes up there. So this is the person who is sending the letter, the sender's name. Notice it is single-spaced. Notice that your resume was single-spaced. And you have your address underneath that. Then you have a blank line and you put the date that you make the request, which goes right there. Okay. Next thing that you're going to be doing is you are going to include a address of the person that you are sending the letter to. So now this might get a little funky for you. You're not sending it to their home address. You're sending it to their business address, most likely. So you want to include their name and their title. So if you wanted to request a letter of me, Mrs. Heidi Dunn, make sure to spell my name correctly, comma, English teacher. Totally fine. For a teacher in the school district, you want to include the address of the school, not their home address. So this is the address of the school right here that you want to include. And that's 1012 North Green Street, McHenry, Illinois, 60050. This section right here is just the name of the building for the Board of Education building. You could put East Campus there, McHenry High School East Campus, and then 1012 North Green Street, McHenry, Illinois. Skip a line. This should be a colon, not a semicolon at the start. So, dear Dr. Raby, dear Mrs. Dunn, dear Coach Kyle, whatever. That goes right there, and then you have a colon that goes after it, blank line. Here's your first paragraph. So what I like to do in my letters is I like to kind of give a history of how we've worked together. So here I have the history of working together. Like you have known me for the last year, for the last 4 years, for the last 18 years, whatever it is, that kind of goes first, and you sort of talk about like how we met and things like that, just as a reminder. Then the next thing is you go into the compliments, what you like about that person and why you chose them. Okay. And then you end with a sentence that is like this. It can be exactly this. I know, Jess, scary that you're like, oh, I don't want to copy that, but you absolutely can insert that sentence in there to say that I'm requesting a letter of recommendation, and this is why I'm doing that. Okay. So here's that center paragraph. Here's where you go into the reasons why you are asking for the letter. And all of you are the same way. As you are aware, I'm about to enter my senior year of high school, and that means that I'll be applying to colleges. And you kind of like explain that. You can explain that many institutions request a letter of recommendation, and that's why you're asking for a letter of recommendation. So then you go into this section right here, which is exactly what you want them to kind of write about. This is where it's kind of changes for each person. I'd appreciate if you highlight my leadership role, my willingness to take part in this, my ability to do that. And that changes for each person because you want to make sure each person writes different things about you. And you include this line, I've included a copy of my current resume for your perusal. And then when you actually use this letter next year, which you should, you make sure that there's a copy of your resume there. This last paragraph is pretty much the same and doesn't need to be changed except for potentially the date for each person. So figure out what date you want that by. If you are wanting a letter from me, can you please ask me for a date at some point this summer? I like to write all my letters if possible over the summer so I don't get bogged down and busy writing letters during the school year. And if you do want to request a letter of me, I really do ask that you write this letter and address it to me for your portfolio so that I'm prepared and I know how many letters I'm going to have to write. Okay, then you end with sincerely, basic closing, comma, leave space right here because you're going to physically sign this once you print it with your signature and then underneath your name. Now, I included my title. You are students, so you don't have a title. So you just put your name right down there. Okay, I hope that helps you understand how to write this letter. Once again, if you need to contact me with questions or anything like that, let me know. All right, let's go back to our homepage in Schoology and into our folder here. I want you to begin today to work on your request letter, and you're going to submit a draft of that just like we did with the resume to the grade book tomorrow by midnight. And so I can see a single copy of your request letter. Again, you can do all three if you want to. Okay, documentary is also due tomorrow, so continue working on editing that. I hope you're having a good day, and I hope you're staying healthy.